Yeah, let's get back into the meat of it. You know, what people really want to hear about, I guess, which would be the Nagy and Pace debate. And
Ooh.
I guess, you know, we'll start off with Nagy. We'll work our way up the football food chain. You know, I think that the reason why Nagy was brought back, I think, was the little bit of resilience, and also, you know, what you touched on earlier with Trubisky. I think that there was kind of a little bit of, you know, he was never Nagy's guy, so I think he was given a little bit of a break there. He was never the guy for Nagy, and also it just became so apparent at the end that he was such a limiting factor within the offense. So I think that ultimately the ownership decided to give him a break and also bring Pace along with him because, you know, at this point, even though they aren't locked together, they weren't brought in at the same time. It's clear that I think when Nagy's time ends, so will Pace's. He's kind of put his career on the back of Matt Nagy because, you know, he fired John Fox, brought in Nagy, and kind of gave himself a break by picking Trubisky, because I think you could definitely make the argument here that, you know, Ryan Pace might be gone if there was a different quarterback at the helm there and they didn't deliver. So I think that using Trubisky as a scapegoat is honestly a decently large reason why they were brought back, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too, because honestly, there's nobody who can get a fair evaluation with Mitchell Trubisky. Truthfully, like there is nobody. And we saw how the Patriots did with, you know, Bill Belichick. I mean, he's a great coach, and he wasn't able to figure out Cam Newton. And
do you want
Newton,
not to cut you off, but do you want to explain, because I know what you mean, but I feel like maybe other people are like, what do you mean a fair evaluation? Go into what you mean about what a fair evaluation of the coach means. Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, everyone wants to look at what we see on the surface level, which what we see is bad offensive production and at times questionable, you know, quarterback, and not only quarterback play, but questionable, you know, decision making by Nagy and all of this. And that I understand completely. But what we don't know is on a snap-to-snap basis, where is this ball supposed to go? What does the read setup look like? Is Mitch checking out, or is Mitch adjusting, you know, protection the right way? Is, you know, how's the center also, you know, all these different things. Is he checking out of the play? Like, what is going on? Also, how much of Matt Nagy's playbook can Mitch just not run? You know, and I think internally they're very clear, and they have a very clear understanding as to what's going on. They probably know exactly, like, we can't do this because we have Mitch. We can't play call in the way that Matt Nagy is trying to play call. I mean, we all like this new, you know, kind of new, unique system that Nagy was running toward the end of the year with laser. But at the end of the day, that is not Matt Nagy's system. Matt Nagy is a, you know, He runs a West Coast variant that is very similar to Andy Reid's, which relies heavily on the quarterback and relies heavily on offensive talent. We have a good amount of offensive talent. We do not have a quarterback. And without the quarterback, it's a mess. It is a complete and utter mess. So that's why we really don't know who Matt Nagy is, and we won't until we have a good quarterback, until we can actually see his system ran in the way he intends it to be ran. And that's why I think that, you know, I like Ryan Pace more than I like Matt Nagy personally, because I think that he, outside of the quarterback, which is actually a quote we'll get into in a minute, outside of the quarterback, I think that Ryan Pace has done an absolutely phenomenal job. And like almost at this point, like from drafting point, like he is someone who, if you gave him a dynasty, he could continue that dynasty for a long time, as long as he had that quarterback position figured out. But I think Ryan Pace had more validity in being fired than someone like Matt Nagy, because Matt Nagy was brought in to fix the mess that occurred from drafting Trubisky.
Yeah. And I think that people need to understand too that, right, Matt Nagy comes from the Andy Reid coaching tree, and maybe his offense isn't exactly like that, but looking into what Andy Reid's technical balance within an offense is usually going to be about a 60% pass, 40% run. going to a run-heavy offense, while Montgomery is one of our best assets on that side of the ball currently, and especially if someone like Allen Robinson goes, then his name goes right to the top of that list, is because it's just not in Nagy's DNA as far as what he wants in the offense. Perhaps call that the wrong hire for the job with having Trubisky as your quarterback, or also, like you said, bringing in someone like Nagy to clean up what the mistake of Trubisky and to try to get some kind of functioning offense. But I think it became clear that that offense can't function to at least its full potential when the most important part is the limiting factor. So I think that, people really need to take that into account as to why they weren't fired. I think that, if the Bears would have fired Nagy, I probably still would have been pretty happy. I would have said, okay, I like that they're going for a change of direction. I can live with it, though, for that reason that basically you're asking someone like Nagy to get the job done with completely the wrong personnel. Basically, like, imagine going on to like a job that you need, such and such people, and they give you people that have no idea. Well, maybe that's not a right comparison, but people that don't necessarily do what you're asking them to do. And you have to try to get them to, work within that system. And you're going to have parts where I fail. You're going to have, these weeks, especially against good teams, as becomes very apparent when those are players that are playing within a system that fit well and they're running like a well-oiled machine, and the Bears are just sputtering. So I think that when you think about it in that line, the justification for keeping them can become a lot easier to understand, at least in that right. You don't have to be happy with it, but at least you can realize why it happened.
And I don't want to hear anything about Nick Foles. Don't even bring up Nick Foles. The reason why Nick Foles was our quarterback is because we didn't have enough cap. We didn't have enough draft capital to even pursue a better quarterback. It said that we were in the running for Tom Brady. And if that would have happened, then all these excuses go out the door. It says we were in the running for Teddy Bridgewater, which I think would even be less excuses than they have now as well, or even less excuses than they have now as well. But at the end of the day, it was Nick Foles, and they signed Nick Foles because they knew who Mitchell Trubisky was last year. They knew it, and they had to do what they had to do this season. And at the end of the day, that ended in an 8-8 record. They believe that hopefully Nick Foles could maybe take them to the playoffs if certain things broke right. It didn't happen, but at the end of the day, you can't say, "Oh, Nagy got his quarterback because he picked out Nick Foles. He knows his system." Like, no, like, come on, let's be honest here, right? But at the end of the day, something I really like, I can't remember who said it. I think it was Kevin Fishbane, if I remember correctly. But he said I can't remember if it was ownership or if it was Ted Phillips or who it was, but they said we've gotten everything, or have we gotten the quarterback situation right? No. Have we won enough games? No. But everything else is there, and that's something that I actually agree with. Like, everything else is almost perfect except for that quarterback position. There's very little flaws from a talent perspective on this team. But what Kevin Fishbane put out is he said, that's like saying, "Hey, Mrs. Lincoln, besides everything else, did you still enjoy the play?" It is kind of, in a kind of, dark way that, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, they're doing everything else, but the most important thing has been left out. And I understand that.
And it's extremely fair to point that out. I think that it also needs to be addressed that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are lucky that they still have jobs to a certain extent. I think that they have, Ted Phillips said, "I really like the culture that we have." Now, at the same time, there's one way you can look at it. You enjoy the culture that you have, but it hasn't led you to anything, Technically, this year was a losing season. They went 8-9, but you exclude the playoffs. They went 8-8, lost in the wild card round. Their best finish is a loss in a wild card round. They haven't really accomplished that much. So you like that culture, but at the same time, it's a testament to everything else that they've done outside of the results, and there's 31 other teams this year that aren't winning the Super Bowl, just like the Bears. So you do have to take that into account. There's other things beyond the stats, beyond the record. And of course, that's what it boils down to. And it boils down to lifting that Super Bowl trophy, the Vince Lombardi trophy. But there are other things you need to take into account, But with that being said, I do think they're lucky to have their job. But Ted Phillips, which, someone that I think has been lucky to keep his job for as long as he has.
I guess he's not retiring. It seems like that's not right.
Right. Made that statement. I think it's fitting for what we've talked about,
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, my real question, and I thought it was weird that ownership declined to mention anything about the length of the contracts of Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. They said that they just declined to answer, essentially, which makes me think that they have bigger contracts than what we might think. And not that necessarily matters all that much, but could play into the decision. But I mean, I think that it's tough and there's a lot of valid criticisms, but ultimately today played out in the way that I think it should have. And we can talk about Pagano in a minute too. We're going to be talking about that later on. And what I can say is that while I may not be 110% confident in Nagy or maybe even Pace getting his quarterback right, what I am confident about is that this team has the right priorities going into this offseason. Because something that Ryan Pace said, first off, I'm going to talk about McCaskey. He said one thing that he said that really resonated with me was the thing that we are very much looking forward to and feel very positive about is, again, a collaboration between Ryan and Matt. That'll be immensely helpful going into the upcoming draft. So he's almost acknowledging exactly what we said, where it's like, Pace, while he didn't really have help drafting Trubisky, I'm sure with our bum last coach, John Fox, he didn't really have really too much help there. And Nagy, he just kind of got thrown Trubisky to him. He never got to make that pick. So there is a lot to be happy with that. Going into next year, not only are we going to have offensive personnel that has been completely picked by this system, the head of the system, but we also have now a quarterback who is handpicked by the guy who wants to make the scheme work, which I think is immensely important, truthfully. So I think that kind of validates what we were saying. But one thing that Pace said specifically, and it really resonated with me, was the whole offseason. He made it very clear. The whole offseason is about getting the quarterback position right. And he said everything is on the table, and specifically says through the draft or acquiring one. And we can read into that in a little bit, but I'm happy. I mean, this is what I've said we should have done last year, or even the year before that. It's we need an off season where it's like there is no boundaries to what we're going to do to get our starting quarterback and to make sure he is a guy.
Yeah, and this offseason absolutely needs to be that. I mean, it's definitely going to be the story of the offseason. We're not going to be talking about, who's going to be our kicker next year, because fortunately we have that figured out. But
yeah, man, he is dude, Cairo Santos, man. That man's a tank. That dude crazy, man.
Best player on the Bears. Hell yeah. But in all seriousness, yeah, it's going to be about the quarterback position and, to kind of get to what you're foreshadowing at, the name, Deshaun Watson. Of course, it has to be brought up. I mean, the Bears have been linked to him tremendously, especially when the trade talks. And I know it's infuriating that we didn't get him the first time and that now that we'd have to give up all this draft capital if we wanted to get him and, potentially another talented player if we wanted to get him. I know that sucks, but, he very much is the option. He could be, the Bears quarterback, another name that we've tossed around continuously. Sam Darnold could make that move, could make that trade. Or, as you were hinting at, Austin, or as we talked about before, we started recording, that option going into free agency. I mean, we don't know who exactly the whole free agent crop is going to be. We don't know if it's going to include someone like Matthew Stafford. It's probably not going to record, have someone like Drew Brees. I think he's going to retire. But there's a couple other potential names out there. potentially even Tua could be getting shopped around. I know he's been linked with the Texans. So there's a lot of options there. And of course, we have all the names in the draft. I mean, they could take it and maybe they say, hey, the potentially 3 first-round draft picks we'd have to give up for Deshaun Watson aren't worth it. We want to go up there and we'll use 2 of our first-round draft picks to make a trade up to get to Zach Wilson or something along those lines. I think that, these are the kind of assessments, the kind of critical thinking that they're doing that, they absolutely need to do it to get the right quarterback for this team and for that system. Maybe Nagy doesn't feel like Deshaun Watson would be the right person to play out his system. Maybe he is in love with someone like, Zach Wilson, like Trey Lance, any of these potential names coming up. I think that's what they are figuring out internally, and it's fun to speculate about who could potentially be, the next Bears quarterback. But ultimately, it's going to be that decision of Nagy and Pace putting their head together. And if it's not, if one of them ends up not getting their way, it's absolutely inexcusable. I don't know. There's nothing else you can say other than that.
What I can say right now is not only do I feel like the Bears are most dedicated to getting this position right within one season, and like having this be like a good to go type of situation where we're going into next season, we know we have a guy on the team. I'll reassure everybody, the Bears aren't going to sit at the 20 pick and pick a quarterback there. There's no way. There is no way in hell that the Bears wait till the 20th pick to draft a quarterback if they're going to draft one. Okay. I think what we're going to see is whether we like it or not, whether it's worth it or not, the Bears are going to be incredibly aggressive this offseason. This is going to be the most aggressive offseason because not only is it what management wants and that we need a quarterback, but I would be shocked if the Bears had under 10 wins and the coaching staff and the entire front office is maintained. Like the expectation is not only a winning season, but a season that takes you deep into the playoffs. Like there is no oh well we got a quarterback and he's giving us some hope. That's why I really don't even think it's going to be through the draft. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think we're going to get a quarterback through the draft. I think the quarterback is going to probably come. Either I think we're going to get a top 3 quarterback, or we're going to get a quarterback through some other way, through free agency, through trade, whatever that may be. That's what it seems like we're going to be doing, because it's just I don't think they would risk taking Trey Lance and trying to get him to develop, because they know that in that time they're going to be losing some games just based on having a quarterback that isn't necessarily like the top guy in the draft, someone that you have to develop. This is going to be a very aggressive offseason, and the expectations are going to be sky high from management going into next year. I mean, if this team turns up another 8-8, even 9-7 season, there's no way they're maintained.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good way to put it in this summation. I think that they're not going to waffle on this, and if they do, it's going to be a huge mistake, but it's definitely in their best interest not to. It's going to be something very serious, and I think that what you said, a top 3 quarterback, or a big name in free agency that's, not someone like Nick Foles, not a Mike Glennon, not that kind of quarterback, but someone a lot more substantial either for free agency and a trade. I mean, it's going to have to be the move, because like you said, I mean, 100%, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are putting their jobs on the line for this. I mean, 100% rest on it. I think a lot of people thought that, Pace's job rested on Trubisky. Well, it didn't, but it 100% rests with this next quarterback. I can assure you that.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. Both of the entire regimes, the entire regime truthfully relies on this quarterback position. And maybe pushing your management into this hyper aggressive position isn't necessarily the best, because that is how dumb mistakes can happen, and there could absolutely be an extreme overpay, or maybe the Bears try to go all out and try to sell the Jets on 3 first-round picks for that number 2 overall pick, something crazy like that. I mean, that's what happened with Washington and RG3, right? Mm-hmm. It's stuff like that happens, and that could happen. Could that be also one of the biggest mistakes in Bears history? Absolutely. there's a huge potential that goes an absolute train wreck, especially with someone with Justin Fields, who, I think he has a lot more questions on him than people want to make out that he does. I mean, he has some very questionable performances, especially with that national championship. There's a lot on the table with Justin Fields, but he's also, a top end quarterback and has all the potential in the world as well. So it could really go either way. Same thing with Zach Wilson. He has a lot of bust potential too, but he can also be a great quarterback. This is not going to be a off season like we've had in the past 2 years. I would almost say that if the Texans are going to trade Deshaun Watson, I would be so surprised if he gets traded to a team that's not the Bears. Because I think that this, specifically Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, I think that they are so desperate right now that they would trade literally everything for him. I don't think that there is a reasonable, something that's, obviously there's something that's outrageous, but I don't think there's a reasonable trade or even a slightly outrageous trade that this management wouldn't do for Deshaun Watson or someone like that.
Yeah, I think they would definitely consider, just about anything. I don't know if I'd be necessarily as shocked as you would be, but I think that it's definitely, if he is truly available, it's definitely something that they're going to be seriously working on. I'll just put it that way.
And it's kind of funny because let's say Pace does actually draft Watson. I mean, the conversations we're having right now are completely different. Ryan Pace is considered one of the best GMs in football. Having Khalil Mack, Deshaun Watson, all these, Eddie Jackson, guys like that. I mean, he is considered this. Let's be honest here. If this team had Deshaun Watson, I mean, if we somehow acquired Deshaun Watson this offseason, I would be shocked if we weren't top 4 in Super Bowl odds.
Oh, in Super Bowl, in the odds, yeah, I would believe it. Yeah.
It's just, it's the game you play, football. It's funny because there's so many decisions that have to be made, yet sometimes you see it boil down to only a couple decisions that really impact the legacy.
Hey guys, like our video, subscribe, and check out our bi-weekly podcasts on Apple Podcasts. Thanks.